And I'm the Senior Manager for Global Market Development for TaroWorks. And on behalf of the TaroWorks team, I'd like to welcome you to the launch of TaroWorks 4.2. We're really excited for this one because it gives us, or gives users more flexibility for the data that you can pass into mobile devices. It makes it easier for M&E users using stats packages and improves the quality of data collected at the source, which we know is critical for any program or business. So Erin Yamaoka is our technical account specialist, and we'll be showcasing these features in a bit. But before I hand it off to her, I want to go over some housekeeping rules. This webinar is being recorded. Everybody is automatically placed on mute, but I can unmute you. So if you have a question, raise your hand and I'll unmute you so you can ask it. Or you can type it directly into the chat and I will moderate and ask Erin if that's the case. So either works. And we should have plenty of time to answer questions after each of the features that Erin showcases. So she'll make some time and pause for questions after each. So I think that is it for housekeeping rules. Without further ado, let me hand it over to Erin Yamaoka.
Thanks, Lane. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we showcase the features from our latest release. My name's Erin. I'm on the TaroWorks Customer Support and Professional Services team based in Uganda. And I have no idea where marketing got this photo of me, but point for marketing, marketing 1, Erin 0. So today we're going to walk through the new features. We're going to also talk about the upgrade, and then we're going to leave plenty of time at the end for some Q&A. Today we're going to look at some examples from our fictional organization Aquacomb. If you've joined our webinars before or watched our YouTube videos on our YouTube channel, you may have already heard of them, but for context, Aquacomb builds wells, sells water filters, and monitors the health progress of the community members that are using the well. So let's dive in. Before TaroWorks 4.2, mobile users could enter or capture any value for text and barcode questions. Now, with response validation, you can provide some additional help to your mobile users in creating high-quality data. You can create validation rules with what are called regular expressions, or regex for short, and examples of these expressions can be copied directly from our customer support site. So let's say Aquacomb wants to create a job so that they can update the contact information they have on record for their well site members. This information is really important when reaching out to members, so they may want to help their mobile users gather the correct information by validating the entries. As you can see displayed here, this is the survey that they would use to update member contact information with this job. When the mobile user is in this job, they have the option to update the user's name or the well site member's name and their phone number. So if we have it spelled incorrectly in Salesforce or maybe their phone number changes over time, we can get that updated information. So when they're updating the name, for example, we may not want to just let them enter any number or type of character. We may want the user to enter just between 3 and 50 characters, and we may want them to be letters. Sample expressions can be found on our customer support site, as you can see here. The variables are in red, so you can adjust the different parameters to meet your needs. In this scenario, we are doing a validation on a word, which is the name, that we only want to allow letters, and we want to allow between 3 and 50 of them. So you can copy the response validation or regex expression right into your response validation input on your survey. There's also a link to that tutorial or the customer support site with those references. You can also test your expression to see what inputs would be valid or not valid with that response validation. So since we're looking for a string with letters with a minimum length of 3, I wouldn't expect E and R to validate, but I would expect Erin to be able to save. We're going to use the same validation to update the last name. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste that. And again, you test the expression. with an input that you would expect to be valid. When updating the phone number, we want to make sure the user is entering exactly 10 numbers. Again, I can copy a similar expression from the customer support article on response validation. The relevant expression here would be a numeric string. And as you can see, if I wanted to validate on a string of a different length, I could just change the number 10 in the expression. Okay. So now let's take a look at what these validations look like on mobile. If we go to our Update Member Contact Info job, the first thing we're going to do is select the member that we'd like to update. So for this example, let's pretend the last field officer that registered this well site member forgot to put the Y in Becky. So we want to correct their first name. However, if we'd only entered less than 3 characters, we wouldn't be able to proceed. If the string contained numbers, it would be the same scenario. And let's say her last name is correct. For the phone number, we'd have validation that wouldn't allow for letters. And also the length of the phone number needs to be exactly 10 digits. So if you have one less or many more, you also can't proceed. You can do all the same validations for the barcode question type. For example, if barcodes for businesses started with a B and the barcodes for products started with a P, you can set up validation rules to ensure that your users are scanning the right value into the relevant question. Are there any questions about response validation, this feature? If not, we can move on to the next feature. Oh, there is a question. Okay, it looks like Miranda has a question. If you have 2 fields, which shows the error? This is an excellent question. So the errors are going to display sequentially, and they're not going to be specific to an input. So for example, if, this is a great question, Miranda. So if we went back into that job and I actually had an error on both the first name and the last name, you would still only see one error, but it would be thrown on the first one. And then once you resolved the first one, it would still be thrown for the second one, and then you'd be able to proceed. Does that answer your question, Miranda? You're welcome. Any other questions on response validation? Okay.
Doesn't seem like it.
Okay. If there's no more questions on response validation, we'll move on. Our next feature is for our customers that really dig into TaroWorks data and analyze it using statistical packages. In order to more easily translate data between Salesforce and this package, or your external package, we developed codes for single and multi-select responses. These codes allow you to associate TaroWorks responses with values that are meaningful to your packages. When you go to export the TaroWorks data that was collected, you can choose to export the values that were displayed to the mobile user, seen here on the left, or their corresponding code, such as LV140. As an example, Aquacomb is gathering data on exposure to waterborne illnesses. Let's take a look at how we can more easily export this information into SPSS. So displayed here is the Illness Exposure Survey. Once you have codes enabled in your org or your instance, then you'll see this column for optional codes for all single and multi-select responses in your surveys. You can choose to populate them with any alphanumeric string that means something to your external package. From a mobile perspective, this is seamless to the mobile user. As you can see, only the normal responses will be displayed with the survey. However, when the data is synced into Salesforce, you have the option to either export those values that were exposed to the mobile user or the codes that you've entered onto the survey. Once you've exported the CSV, assuming you chose the codes, this data will be ready for import, use, and analysis into your external package. Are there any questions on that feature?
Looks like we have a question from Gordon. Gordon, I'm going to unmute you. Could you just give a brief introduction of who you work with and then ask your question?
Hello, my name is Gordon Lau. I am the Information Systems Architect for IDE. Really great feature. Thank you very much for showing this. I have two questions. One, is there a limitation on how long the optional code can be? And two, is that mappable to a Salesforce field?
Great questions. Thanks for that, Gordon. There is a limitation on the length of the codes. Let me circle back to you on what that is and make sure that gets published to our article as well. Is there a particular length that you were interested in based on the package or the analysis you're using? Or are you just curious on the general limitation?
I'm trying to see, in some cases, it might be faster than setting up translation, but since TaroWorks already have such a great translation, it's already compatible with the translation workbench. I think that's not as important as a workaround. So.
Yeah, this actually was a use case that was brought up by other customers as well as using it for doing reporting and analysis with surveys across multiple languages, and then using that single code to kind of do your reporting, which could be a workaround for translation, like you mentioned. So I'll get back to you on
actually, Gordon,
the length.
So we just got some information from Maggie. The limit is 255 characters. That should hopefully be plenty. That's a Salesforce limit.
That sounds great.
Yep.
Thanks so much, Maggie.
Thanks, Maggie. And your second question about mapping, you can't map the codes to a Salesforce field yet. This is stored in our TaroWorks objects, so it's possible to get to and report on, but that is a future phase for this feature.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. This is awesome.
Hey, thanks, Gordon.
Thank you. Great question.
Cameron Khan, I'm going to unmute you. If you could just introduce yourself as well and then ask your question. Hello, Cameron. Or maybe just type it into the questions section. Seems like you're muted still. Okay, I think we can move on. Cameron, if you want to type your question in, we can get to it at the end maybe. Oh, okay. Great, I think that's it, Erin.
Okay, great. So the final major feature in this release is multiple drill-down hierarchies. Before we dive into the expanded functionality, let's just do a quick review of the power of a single drill-down hierarchy. With TaroWorks, you have two-way data flow. Surveys are your primary tool for getting data into Salesforce, and then drill down hierarchies are your mechanism for pulling that data back out. For example, if your mobile user Aquacomb wanted to obtain information about a well site in a particular region, you might build a drill down hierarchy where the user would first select a region and then would be displayed all the well sites in that region. And then once they selected the well site they're looking for, they could view information from Salesforce about that site. Each level of the hierarchy represents a parent-child relationship between two objects. Now, in TaroWorks 4.2, you can configure up to 5 hierarchies from which you can deliver data to your mobile users from Salesforce. You can also reduce user error by using these fields to pre-populate survey responses. Now let's take a look at another Aquacomb scenario. Let's say Aquacomb gives educational trainings to its well site members about maintaining the well site and information about different waterborne diseases. Currently in Salesforce, this is their database schema. Aquacomb has a module object that is the parent of the lesson object. It also has a region object, which is a parent of the well site object, which is a parent of the well site member object. Aquacomb wants to track which trainings each member has had, and they want to do this by creating attendance records that contain a reference to the member, a reference to the lesson, the date of the training, and any feedback from the member about the information they received. With multiple drill down hierarchies, I can drill down to both the lesson the member received by selecting the module and then the lesson, as well as selecting who was trained by traversing a second drill down hierarchy from region to well site to member. Let's take a look at how this job would look with multiple drill down hierarchies. Before we start in the job, let's take a brief pit stop off at the survey. So this is the survey that the mobile user would use to create attendance records. Again, they're gathering the date, lesson, well site member, and some feedback. Instead of having the mobile user type in the response to the lesson survey question and the well site member question, we want to pass this data in to reduce error and reduce the time the user has to spend on the job. So to set up the drill down hierarchies to do that, we need to configure that on the job. Starting with the first drill down hierarchy, we're going to first give the drill down hierarchy a name. So you want to give the mobile user some context of what they're drilling down to. Let's start by down to the lesson. You always start your drill down hierarchies with the highest level object, which in this scenario is the module. And then you choose a field from that object that you want displayed in the list of modules. So I think they should be choosing from the list of module names. For the next object, we're going to select the lesson. As you can see, the objects to choose from are only the child objects or the children of the module object. The field that we're going to display in the list to choose from is going to be the lesson name. And then there's also a section to display different fields on a detailed view. This is information that we can expose to the user that might be helpful to their job. Let's choose the lesson name, the estimated length in minutes of the lesson, a short description, and also the materials that may be required for this lesson. You also need to have fields in this selected fields column if you want the value to be able to be passed into a survey. Now that we've done our drill down for lessons, let's add our drill down to get down to the member. So the name of the drill down hierarchy should tell the user what they're drilling down to. We're going to start with the highest level object in the drill down. So we're going to have the user start by selecting a region based on the region's name. The next level would be the well site. We'll have the user choose from the well site's name, a list of well site names. We could additionally add any additional information the user might need to know. And then finally, we're going to choose a well site member. We'll have them choose from a list of well site member names. And we're going to want to pass in the well site member's name into the survey, so it has to be present here. So now we're done configuring our drill down hierarchies. Now, in order to map the data into a survey from the drill down hierarchy, we need to do the mapping on the task. So we're going to select the survey we just looked at, the training attendance survey. And once the survey is selected, you can see that both of the drill down hierarchies are available here. To add a mapping, you'd select the object from the hierarchy that you'd like to map from, the field from that object, and then the survey question you want it to pre-populate. And we'll do the same for the well site member and the well site member's name. And that's it. So let's take a look at what this looks like on the mobile device. We go to our well site education attendance job. When we start the job, we're going to enter the first hierarchy drill down, which is named lesson. You can see what object you're on also below. So we're starting with the module object, and then next we'll go to the lesson object. So let's say we are going to give a lesson today to our well site members on well maintenance, specifically the lesson on filter usage. And as you can see, some additional information is displayed about the lesson based on the detail fields that we selected here. In the second hierarchy drill down, we're going to be drilling down to the well site member. Start with the region, then the well site, then the well site member. The configuration we did on the hierarchy drill down is what set up all of those menu items that we just selected from, and expose the detailed fields from the selected records in the drill down hierarchy. As you can see, now that we've entered the survey, the less than value has been pre-populated based on what we selected in the drill down hierarchy, as well as the well site member's name. This configuration was set up on the mapping of the task. So to create this attendance record, I could simply sync this data in. I could also repeat the job, which would just take me to the last selection that would need to be made in your hierarchy drill downs in case I wanted to create some attendance records for others. Let's say that we presented this attendance to only 3 of the well site members. Then, upon syncing, we should be able to go to the well site members record in Salesforce and see the attendance records that were created. With multiple drill down hierarchies, you can expose more data from Salesforce to your field officers and increase the quality of information that is captured by using these values to pre-populate surveys. Are there any questions on the drill down hierarchy feature? Multiple drill down hierarchies. If there aren't any questions, we can move on. So finally, the actual upgrade process from 4.0 takes less than an hour, and upon syncing after the upgrade, your mobile users will be prompted to download an update to their mobile device. As always, it's advisable to have a solid connection when downloading this update. Also, a couple of reminders. Please complete all of the upgrade steps before starting to work in your new version of TaroWorks. This is particularly important for the upgrade to 4.2 because there's a step where you need to complete to enable multiple drill down hierarchies for all of your existing jobs. Also, as always, don't forget to install for specific profiles. This is how your existing users will get their new permissions in order to access these new features. Also, if you're new to TaroWorks and would like to try these features and more, contact us at hello@taroworks.org for a free trial. And that's it. So Elaine, I don't know if there were any other straggling questions?
Thanks, Erin. It doesn't seem like there are any. Feel free to raise your hand or type your question into the chat as we're waiting. I just want to create or start a quick poll to see which of these features you might find useful in your own operation. So feel free to type that in, and then also let us know your questions about this. Okay, we have a question from Andrew Zacharias of Trees for the Future. So he says that these new features are great and they have applications to their organization that we'll want to apply in the future, but not right now. Erin, can they delay upgrading to this new version until they're ready?
Yes, definitely. As with any upgrade, you can determine the best time for your organization. We support the last two versions of TaroWorks typically. So as long as you're staying within that window, which is typically we do about a quarterly release. So as long as you're upgrading about biannually, that should be sufficient.
Great. And then there's a question from Judith Walker at African Clean Energy. So if she's just starting to use her trial, can she just update the trial straight to the new version?
Yes, and based on the timing of when your trial started, you actually might already be on 4.2. So I can take that offline and check that for you after this session. But to answer your question, if you weren't, then you could do the same upgrade steps as everyone else on a trial as on a real version.
Okay, Gordon has, let me see. Oh, Gordon has a comment that multiple hierarchy drill downs would be really useful for the 7 countries and 300 users that are using this currently and for IDE. Great, thanks, Gordon. Okay, great. I think that is it. As always, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about upgrading or if you want to see the other features of TaroWorks, and we can schedule a demo. So any last comments from you, Erin?
No, I think that's it.
Great. Short one today. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.